Hello everyone. My name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge, and I'm filming this intro the day after having read this. Are you all in a state of shock like I am? Because I immediately want to read it again. I may get the audio and listen to it to read it again because I don't think I can do another 757 pages of this. But I just wanted to film this intro and say that I hope you're here for the therapy. I assume this video is going to be about an hour and a half long because I'm sitting here going to film my final thoughts because, as you'll see in the review, I was doing updates up until about 80%. And then where we were at the story, I was like, I don't want to be stopping and doing those. So I've taken notes all the way through. There's also a few things that now that I know the whole arc about them, I want to talk about it. So yeah, I just wanted to film this intro and say, I hope you're ready for some therapy with me. That's what I'm here for. I know I love watching these videos to see when those big moments hit certain people. And this was just such a ride. I mean, it's fantastic. I do want to say that there's a couple trigger warnings. Maybe they popped up to you as it went. There is assault and remembered assault in here. There's also a trigger warning for what I would call self-harm, because I consider deep alcoholism and things like that self-harm, in my opinion. There's also grief and trauma remembered. So I just want to put that out there. I think those of us who are at this point in the series probably know about those, but I was seeing some other people mention the trigger warnings and I was like, hey, I try to be a responsible booktuber, and just because I love an author so much and I am used to their style of writing, I don't just want to forget that we still need to say those things. So yes, I want to put that out there. And without further ado, you're going to see my reactions. I started this at 11 p.m. On the 15th when I got it on my Kindle. So you're going to see me in mostly sitting right there on my couch like a lot of my vlogs are. And we'll just go from there. And you'll see me again an hour from now when I will wrap up the end of it and share my final thoughts. I know this is really bad lighting, but I only have the TV on with like a sound thing, but I know I just had to it's here. It's fucking here. There's a new map at the front, so I'm having to look at it. I pulled it up on my Fire so that I could see the color and everything. It's so pretty. Oh my god, it's happening. Okay, I'm gonna start, but I just wanted this to be like, ooh, something in my teeth this late at night, that it's officially happening. It is 11:10 p.m. on the 15th, and I'm starting it. I'm really not tired at all. I'm super hyped, so I'm just gonna go as far as I can, and then when I get up, I will go and get the physical copy, but I'm starting. It's happening. It's happening. I won't do too many of these updates while it's still at night, but I just wanted to do kind of my first reaction and everything. I'm 50 pages in, so I read the first 3 chapters, and a couple things right away. Number one, slipping back into this world is probably one of the greatest pleasures ever. I am just so here for it. She just writes such vibrant, bright characters. We start this book off with Nesta going into the cauldron from her point of view, and how she is literally fighting it and takes a piece out of it, and so we're reminded of that she took something from it. And then we have that first chapter that is the same one that was in the back of A Court of Frost and Starlight. Sorry, I have this stupid thing going. And then we have, I know that some people, they have a problem with the level of regression that Nesta had, specifically in how her and Cassian interact with each other. And personally, my thoughts on why it happened is, number one, I think losing her dad and being Fae and all that hit her really hard, you know, because remember, Nesta's the oldest, and she had a glimpse just for a moment of a chance to have a reconnected relationship with her father. And it's really clear to me because we see her thinking about those last few things her father said to her. And I remember from A Court of Frost and Starlight, I remember commenting on the fact that Nesta had never went to her father's grave yet. So I definitely think that is something we'll need to see happen with her. So I wrote that it's basically like Nesta's being sent to rehab because she's being kind of trapped in the House of Wind. I mean, the only way for you to get in and out of that is to either take the 10,000 steps down to the village or have someone winnow you or fly you in and out. So it's just her staying up there. And then she has to train with Cassian in the morning and then work in the library with the women there. Who, if you remember, the women at the library, they've all had different traumas and they've all been through that. So I'm really interested to see what they have her doing there and to see, you know, what type of work starts being done. I think the other reason people are so shocked by her regression is the way that things had progressed with Cassian that have now completely went backwards. The fact that she just fucks with whoever she wants, drinks all the time, doesn't take care of her body, and Cassian just like seems indifferent to it, but obviously he's not. Obviously in this world we know that women can reject the mating bond, and I feel like, I don't know if that is just an official thing or if like the bond is always open and if you're just not accepting it, it's the same as rejecting it. I don't know. The only experience I've really seen before is we hear how Rhys's parents had a bond that shouldn't have happened. And with Feyre and Rhys, we know that she, you know, was definitely with Tamlin before she was with Rhys, and like that didn't ruin anything. But it is something else. Like Feyre has the fact of she didn't know she was someone's mate when she was human or when she was first Fae. So that really wasn't her fault. Whereas we have Nesta, who knows this man is her mate, has shown care for him before. He said some very romantic things to her, and she is choosing to just like fuck other people. Now, my biggest thing for that is I see her doing that as using it as a drug. It's a numbing agent for her. We don't know a name of any of these people she's doing it to. And I think that's kind of how everyone... And so that's why we need this kind of rehab situation. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing some detox happen with her. And then I'm very excited for the sparring and the things that are going to happen. I do wonder, even just off the bat, how much of a slow burn we're going to be looking at. Because I don't want no chapter 55 business, people. I know there's 80 chapters in this book. I know that. I'm not complaining. I trust Sarah. I'm just already so ready for things to be moving forward with them. And I don't want it to take forever. So, anyway. Alright, I probably won't update anymore tonight. Unless something totally batshit happens. But my plan is to read for maybe another hour. I can probably read another 50 pages in that time. And then I'm going to go to sleep and be good. Because when I get up, I will go get my physical copy. Because I want to be like highlighting stuff and marking it up. And I just want to have it in my hands so badly. But anyway, I'll check in tomorrow. Hey everybody. It's morning now. We won't talk about my hair. So, I ended up reading to page 107 last night. So, I got through chapter 8. And, wow. Like, it's so far, like, pretty much what I expected for the beginning of the book. to have Nesta just being really broody and reliving some of the trauma that she's been through and like thinking about those things. I took a lot of notes about, there was this like quote from like, it's not even the prologue, it's just like a preface or something like that at the beginning, where as she's going into the cauldron, she's thinking, in the beginning and in the end, there was darkness and nothing more. And then there's stuff about like she ripped something out of the cauldron like with her teeth, like which this is all stuff we like know from the other one that Farah and the others have observed is happening. But I really like seeing like why there's this backslide in her. And it's like, we were in a heightened time of war. And now it's like with anything with PTSD, like she had never fully dealt with what had happened before. And then now she's just supposed to be happy. Like even Elaine, who was the most traumatized, like Nesta was in this mode of trying to make sure Elaine was okay. And then Elaine is she just okay now? Like Nesta doesn't know. And there's this, like her and Amryn aren't talking anymore because the last time we saw them together was summer solstice or winter solstice. It was winter solstice that we saw them, and it's been 9 months. So they recently had like, there was summer solstice, and apparently Amryn and Nesta have had a falling out. And so they're not talking anymore, which now Nesta has like no one because Amryn was the only one she was talking to. And now she's not talking to anyone. And so anyway, as I think I said this in the last, that's the thing too. I don't know what I said last night. I think I'd read like 50 pages when I made an update last night, and I read, like I'd said, yes, it's coming back to me. It's all coming back. It's coming back to me now. That probably won't get copyrighted because I sing horribly, so they won't be able to tell what it was. But I read 50 pages and updated it. And so she is now at the House of Wind. And it's like she's going to rehab. And I knew there was going to be a scene of her trying to take the steps. And I'll tell you, I really felt for her. Because if I had done 100 of I know I wouldn't be able to do the 10,000 steps. Like, it's as good as being trapped up there. But she's so out of shape. She's so unhealthy. Like, she's Fae, so she's not going to, like, desiccate. But she is starving herself because she's just not hungry. And Cassian is like, training is going to kick your ass, bitch. You need to eat. And she, like, won't. And so he makes little deals with her to get her to eat. He's like, well, I won't make any comments for the day if you will eat your food. And then they go to training, and she just sits. She's like, I said I would attend your lessons. I'm not going to do them. And so she's embarrassing him in front of the Illyrians. The Illyrians make a weird thing about, like, if she's menstruating, we'll have to bury the knives that she uses, which is just like, I am most excited to see her get her fire back because she's being grouchy and crotchety, but she is not a burning flame like we've seen her before. She's just like, she's nothing. And that's literally like what she says. Like, there's nothing in her anymore. She hates herself. She doesn't have a home. And this is a lot of self-punishment. So it's like, it's even past like self-pity, you know, we're in this place, and I knew that's what this was going to be. So I guess I'm so excited. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm wallowing in it, even though she is. It feels like I'm like, Nesta, what's gonna light her up? So I don't know if it'll just be, she is like, you know, forced to look at some things. Like, I want her to have like an outburst where maybe, this sounds bad, but I want her to have like an outburst where she maybe hurts someone. Of course, not kill someone, but like hurt someone. And then she's like, you know what? I do need to learn how to control my powers. Because that's the whole thing, is they're like, we know you need to control yourself. You're missing that you need to control yourself. And so, I don't know. I'm fascinated with it. Sarah, I knew that this was going to just like dig into my heart and like hit me so hard. And I love that she's feeling these things. I know that makes me sound, but it's what I'm here for. Like, I knew what this book was going to be. And I know the place that Sarah has said she was at when she was writing Nesta. And I'm ready to see it come out in the story. Like, I'm craving it. I'm here for it. I want to see this explosion of it, you know? So, yeah. So the plan for today, I know. I'm kind of vlogging this. I mean, I am vlogging this even though I'm going to present this as like a live reaction thing instead of a daily vlog with me. Like, it's not going to be like that. But just to let you know how the day's going. So it is 9 a.m. right now where I am. I haven't read anything today. These were just my thoughts from last night. I was busy this morning kind of chatting with all my friends who started it last night or didn't start it. There's also rolling blackouts going through the south and in certain places because they had a huge ice storm. And for once, like, we haven't had anything. It's too cold to snow where I'm at. So it's just a barren landscape of cold, and it's a thing. So I took the entire day of work off today, as I've said in previous videos, because I don't want to think about it. Also, I mean, I'm going to be working towards starting my new job soon too. So now is the time to start it, because when I start my new job, I won't have any vacation besides like paid vacation days for the first year. So I was like, I'm going to enjoy just being able to take an indulgent day because when a Sarah J Maas book comes out, it's a holiday for me. It's a thing. So I am going to actually watch some Booktube, get my face done up, have breakfast, and then by then it should be almost 10 o'clock, which that's when my Barnes & Noble opens, so I can go get my physical copy. I actually think what I'm going to do, though, I mean, because of course I'm going to get a physical copy, is I'm probably going to keep reading on one of my devices just because it's, like, easier. But then, just because this book is huge, and it's not going to be very, like, portable for my house. But I am definitely planning to, like, flag and mark it up. And, in fact, I already have some highlights that I made that I just want to mark up. So I'll probably do that. And then, I mean, so I have like 650 pages left. I was just telling one of my friends that I'm probably going to do like 100-page sprints, and then like stop and update you guys and talk with friends about it and everything. So I'm very excited. I love this communal aspect of like getting to read it together. And because so many of my friends like do have the day off today because of stuff, it's going to be great. Also, there is a live read-along tonight for Fargo Feb, so my goal is to, like, be done with it by that time so that I'm done with it. And it's at 8 p.m. on my channel tonight for Fargo Feb, so that's happening. Whoop, whoop. All right, just a quick check-in. I'm all frazzled because I went and I had to pick up a prescription, and then I grabbed some breakfast, and then I got to Barnes & Noble 5 minutes before it opened. And I got it. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I don't pre-order the big books like this that I want to read the day that they come out because Amazon doesn't get them to me the day of. You know, they can't like ship it too early. So I've been disappointed before where I pre-ordered a book and then it didn't show up until 3 days afterwards or something like that. Especially if a release is coming out in the winter because sometimes stuff gets delayed and all that jazz. So I live in Fargo and they will sell out of stuff like this, but never on like release day. Like they'll usually sell out the week of, or for some books, if they haven't ordered enough, sometimes they'll sell out like 2 or 3 days after it comes out. So that's why I didn't pre-order it and I just got it. You know, I started reading last night on the ebook. But now I have it. And I have the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. So this one has a special Feyre and Rhys chapter. But if you get it from Books A Million, they have a special Azriel chapter. I'm happy I'm getting the Rhys and Feyre one because I think I know what it is already. Even though I won't be reading it until the end. Like, I have an idea of what it is just because there's something that Rhys is telling her about. So anyway, I'm going to dive back in now. And like I said, I'm probably going to do check-ins every like 100 pages unless something really crazy happens. So here we go. Okay, so checking back in. I mean, most of my check-ins are going to come from this chair today because this is where I'm sitting. So I am at page 185. So 26%. I've just finished chapter 15. And whew, my tummy's fluttering because chapter 15 is where we have like this really hot moment after they've just, there's a lot of stuff that's been talked about now. Let's see. Man, there's just so much. Couple things that have been mentioned. In chapter 13, we heard about the Valkyrie. I hope that comes back around. I freaking love Valkyrie. I'd be very interested to see. But that supposedly there was some female warriors who were just as like fierce as the Illyrians, but now they're just a myth. And I'm like, how fucking cool would it be if Nesta starts like a battalion of Valkyrie somehow? Prediction, yes, because Nesta, her personality and just like the raw fierceness that she has, that is just so unfocused. How fucking badass would she be as like head of the Valkyrie? Like, it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. She has started showing up to training consistently, but they're really only at like the stretching part of it. Also, I'm loving the house. The house like provides whatever she needs, and so it will like give her dirty romance novels to read. And I don't know if like the house is trying to like push her towards Cassian. That's my like gut feeling, is that the house, you know, all the things it did for like Feyre and Rhys, that it either gives you really what your heart's desire is, or it gives like what you're supposed to have. I have a clip in my hair and it hurts against the couch. And I just think that's a fascinating idea. I love sentient things like that, whether it is like animals that are sentient or like AI that does stuff. And this house is kind of remind me a lot of like an AI house or something, but it's magical. And the house will like reward her with chocolate cake when she does nice things. And at one point she's like, "You're pretty much my only friend," she says to the house, which so here's the thing too, like I'm not really getting boohoo Nesta. Like that is not how I'm reading this book. And I know that some people might just be like, "Oh, it's so sad and depressing," and like I'm not seeing it that way. And I think part of it is that I see Nesta as an addict right now. I see her as someone who has PTSD, who hates herself, and the level that she's hating herself and the way that she's lashing out, like it's not fun to read. But I'm ready for something to happen where she snaps, like I said. So she's made this bargain with Cassian in the beginning that like her first hour of training, he makes a promise that's a favor. And so I'm very interested to see what that favor will be. But now she's consistently still been going, and she's been liking the library. I think it's funny, like she isn't really trying to use any of her powers. She's still very resistant to using those. And I really want to know what the event will be that makes her snap and use her powers more. I really want to see that, because one of the priestesses at the library is like, you've been shelving all these books by hand instead of using your powers. Like, we thought you'd be using your powers to shelve the books, and no, she's been doing it by hand. And then anyway, so there's a few little things happening with the war parts of it, you know, like Cassian, they were just in the spring court, and like Tamlin is like staying as a beast lately, and Rhys isn't getting him to like come back. And so that's really hard for them, because he is the last line of defense going into the human lands and everything. And so, and peace talks with Valhallan, which is across the sea, like haven't been going well. They've been trying to make deals with them without being too pushy, but it isn't working. And then there's this thing mentioned called the, wow, I didn't write it down, the XOXO or something, the Undying. I don't know what that means, but I know that that is a creature from myth or whatever, and it's going to be like used in battle, I guess, something like that. Let's see what else. So there's been parts of that stuff's not really sticking out to me yet, because obviously I'm more into this for the romance right now, and so until something really moves forward with that, I don't really have anything to say, so we'll have to see. But anyway, chapter 15, we had our first like real breakthrough. So they have dinner together, or breakfast, it must be dinner, and they're really like finally talking through some things, and Cassian starts kind of pushing at a few things, and she's like, "Whoa," and he's like, "Don't backslide, Ness, like just tell me some of these things." And she's like, "No, we haven't." And so he kind of makes a statement of like, you know, the first time I saw that look on your face, you were still human, and I would have went to my knees for you then. And I'm just like, oh. So she like walks him against the wall, and I just could picture it so clearly, because his like wings snap out, and she just is just like holding him against the wall with a hand. and they're just breathing each other in, and then he's like, you know, I'm going to be thinking about you tonight. And so they both go to their own rooms, and Nesta, like, tells the house, like, don't bother me until morning. And then she, like, pleasures herself all night, and Cassian does too, in separate rooms. And I'm just like, oh, they're just so hot, and I'm just so ready for it to happen. And I know that we're a ways from that happening, but the sexual tension is driving me insane. So good. It's so good. So that's where we're at right now, and I'm going to dive back in to everything, but check-ins are important. Hello. I moved from the chair to the couch now because I was getting cold, so I wanted to cozy with my blanket. Alright, so I'm like another 100 pages now. I'm on 277, so I'm 38% in, and things have taken a turn. So, Feyre's pregnant, which I had a gut feeling because it would have been like 9 months that they were trying. And Rhys has been being like uber protective of her. Like he literally had this like barrier around her, which they were saying he was practicing with Hellion's power to see how good he could like suppress things. But it's actually because he's been suppressing her scent, which he was able to tell. Like, they were able to tell by her scent that she's pregnant. And so we know that this is going to be the little boy that she saw, which is just, it's so adorable. And I love the nuances of it all. I love seeing Feyre from the points of view of other people because we were in her head for so long. And I love seeing how articulate and, like, smart she is from other people's points of view. You know what I mean? I like it a lot. But anyway, so we got introduced to a lot of lore stuff. So there is this thing called the Dread Trove, which is these objects of power that were all made by the Cauldron. And so we specifically hear about 3 of them. We hear about the mask, the crown, and the harp. And so my guess is that the mask must be like the mask on the cover of the book, right? With the weird sun on it. That we're all like, what the fuck is this? And now I feel like that kind of explains it. So they each do something else. The mask can raise the dead, the crown can influence anyone, and the harp can open any door. And so these have been kind of lost from memory because they've been like removed from memory. But if you have those 3 items, you should be able to find the cauldron, which the cauldron is hidden, and that's what Braylon and Baron want to get a hold of. And Baron from the Autumn Court, which, you know, that's Lucian's dad, he has already promised her his forces. And so Eris, who, you know, is Lucian's brother, he's the one that in A Court of Wings and Ruin promised that he would help Rhys if Rhys would promise to support him when he makes a bid for the throne. Which that hasn't happened yet, but I'm assuming that's going to be something we're going to have to do because Baron is promising his forces to Braylon, which I, like, yeah. So that's not great. And then, so anyway, so where like Nesta and them come in is that because the sisters were all made, we're going to try to do the same thing. And instead of trying to track the cauldron, try to find this dread trove so that we can hide it from the others. So the reason why Feyre being pregnant is important to this is that she cannot do the searching because the parts of her power that would let her search for that, they're not sure how the baby would react. Like, she's still able to, like, fly and winnow and do certain things, but they don't want to risk anything. So it's either Elaine or Nesta who has to do it. And we see Nesta kind of jump up and be like, no, Elaine can't do anything. And I really like that we're seeing Elaine kind of come forward a little bit. Like, it feels really good to see her do that. Because she says, because her and Elaine had like a confrontation just a little bit ago, which I still don't know what the fuck is happening between those two. But I like it. I like seeing the layers to it and things like that. And Elaine says, she's like, Nesta, you can't have it both ways. You can't criticize me that I want to just stay in Feyre's garden and tend flowers, but yet you don't want me to do anything dangerous. Like, you can't have it both ways. And it's obvious that, like, Nesta said those things because she's just fucked up right now. Like, she just is. So they're like, Nesta, you could scry. You could try to find these things, and she's like, last time it almost killed me. And it's like, the guys are kind of thinking, well, now that we've put this out there that the reason why Feyre can't do it, maybe if we just kind of like leave her alone, she'll try to do it on her own. So yeah, I don't know. I'm very interested. I'm trying to pretend that I'm interested in the other parts of the story. I am. I want to see more of the High Lords again, though, which I know that, like, Rhys and Feyre are the ones interacting with them. Like, we're not at the point where Nesta's going to be interacting with anyone other than Cassian. But we had some good scenes with that happen. In chapter 18, they have this, like, Cassian is really, like, vulnerable about his trauma. And like when his mom was killed and he went back to find her when he was old enough, and we found out that she had died and they hadn't even buried her anywhere. They just threw her off a cliff, basically. Because she's the one who is mistreated for having a bastard child, even though she was raped by someone who had a wife and or a mate and kids already. And so him and Rhys killed everyone who had anything to do with it. They slaughtered everyone in the town that wasn't a child or a woman or like the elderly. And it took him 10 years to get over it. And so that's when he's telling her, he's like, if you need to take that much time, fine. But like, stop being a bitch while you do it. And so then she like angry kisses him. So they end up like humping against a wall, and Cassian totally blows his load in his pants. And I was so happy about it. And Nesta's worried he's going to regret her, so she like cuts him like right to the heart by just being like, ooh, kind of quick on the mark there. And so then in like the next chapter, he's like, I owe you a debt. And so he like, well, actually it takes a couple chapters, because then we have the chapter where we find out about the Dread Trove and all that, and Nesta and Feyre try to talk about it. And then in chapter 22, he's like, I owe you a debt, which is an orgasm debt. And she's like, okay, but it's just sex. And I'm like, yeah, it's just sex, my left tit, okay? Like, just keep it coming. So there is a super sexy scene there, which is just everything. I'm so excited about it. But then, so the other thing is that, oh, I don't know if I said this. Oh, I did in the last clip about, like, the Valkyrie. I definitely think that that is becoming more and more true, because now Nesta asked Cassian if he would be willing to train any women from the library who want to learn. And he's like, they probably don't want to learn from a man because they're very scared of men. Like, that's why, like, Rhys is the only one who really, like, goes around those women most of the time. And she's like, well, if I can get people to sign up, would you train them? And so we've had this trouble. No one has signed up for it, even though it's been like a couple weeks of her asking. So she starts doing her exercises in the library. And basically Cassian comes to chastise her, and she has him like correct her fighting stance in the library so the women can see what it would be like to work with him, which was really cute. And then the next day, Gwen signs up for it. So Gwen is one of the people we met. I haven't written down the names of all the women we met, but so now we're starting. Hold on, let me back it up. I'm starting part 2 now, which is called Blade, and chapter 25. So I just want to do an update because I had made it about another 100 pages. And yeah, we're going to start training with Gwen. So I'm really excited to see. I want her to build a badass Valkyrie crew, like, so bad. Like, oh my god, it would be amazing. Oh, so yeah, things are going good. I am 37% in. Like, oh, I'm already sad that I'm so far in, but I'm also ready for, like, full sexy time to happen. Like, I want their mating bond to slip into place so badly, because I know it's gonna happen, and I just want it. I want it. I know she has a journey still to go. Like, I know, and I'm here for it. I just also want it. So there we go. I'm not, like, I've had my first, like, really, really, like, emotional bit of the book. I have my tissue. It was a thing. We've also had some even sexier times. When was the last time I filmed? Let me see. Okay, so I filmed the last time right before Nesta gave Cassian a nice little comfort BJ. in the dining room. And then Azriel stopped them from fucking on the table. So thanks, Az. She's getting stronger. More women are training with her. That's fine. All that stuff is good. I'll probably talk more about how I feel about the arc of the women training, like, at the end. Right now, I'm kind of just more interested in the beat by beat of the romance part of it. And then once the story's over, I'll be able to more fully focus on what's happening with the girls. So the thing that made me cry the most is we found out that Feyre, when her and Rhys had sex when they conceived, she was full Illyrian when that happened. Where's my remote? And so the way that shape-shifting worked, I mean, there's magic reasons, like, it's magic reasons, I get it, but because they were in, like, she was in Illyrian form when she was, like, when they conceived, but then, like, she changes back for normal times because she'll, like, you know, doesn't want to wear her wings all the time if she doesn't, because she doesn't have to. But because she conceived the baby while she was Illyrian, the baby's Illyrian. And so now that the baby has, like, formed more, she's not supposed to shapeshift back. Which, that tiny little part, that's why I'm, like, not sure about that piece of it. But I'm fine with it for story-wise because it is very compelling. So Rhys ends up coming to talk to Cassian and Azriel and say that the baby has wings. And Feyre is in her, like, regular high fae body now and isn't allowed to turn back into Illyrian. And so a baby with wings, her body's not made to have that child. And so we're all kind of panicking. And so, I mean, I know that we're all going to be okay. Like, right? It's going to work out. Sarah J Maas is not going to let Feyre die giving birth to a baby. She's not going to do that. But to see how much that, like, affects Rhys and the whole council, or the whole inner circle, who just, they all just love Feyre so much, you know, that it still manages to just take your breath away. Because as soon as he's explaining it, I'm like, oh shit, this is really bad, you know? And she's still able to make you afraid. And, like, I guess, like, Feyre isn't, like, fully comprehending it at this point. And Rhys is kind of, like, hiding from her how scared he is, because they're like, we know there's women who'll survive. So, okay, not to be, it kind of is reminding me a little bit of, like, a Twilight moment where, like, except with much more perceptive people and in a less creepy way, but there aren't many women who have survived, like, having Illyrian babies with wings because their bodies aren't made to do it, and they can't really do, like, C-sections in this time and stuff. So it still manages to hit really, really hard. And so Rhys and Cassian, they spar together so that Rhys can just, like, let it out. And then Cassian comes back and he talks with Nesta about it, and it was so powerful what it said about it, because Nesta has this thing where she's just, like, blind panic of just, like, oh my God. You know, and you see those moments of sisterly stuff just, like, flare up with her. So then she agrees to try to scry again. And this is where things got, like, really powerful. Well, before that, they try to change, like, the subject because they're both getting kind of emotional about Feyre. And Cassian's like, why haven't you come to my room? Because he had laid that out in the beginning that, like, if she wanted stuff. And he was like, you haven't done anything since, you know, you gave me a blowjob. And he's like, did I hurt you? And she's like, no. You didn't make a move either. It was, like, your turn. And he's like, it's always going to be your choice kind of thing. And so she's like, once we make it through this next thing, you can fuck me anywhere you want in the house. And I was like, oh my God. But then we actually do the scrying. And this was so cool. Like, this is, Sarah just writes this stuff so well. Like, I had absolute shivers down my spine because she tries scrying. And this time, instead of just her and Cassian trying to do it alone, because that's what they did try doing it before and it didn't work, Rhys and Azriel, like, everybody comes. And so he's standing with her, holding her hand. And she gets lost in it. And to protect them all from the cauldron this time, she locks her mind inside with it. So like Rhys, he's like, you know, mentally he's like banging on the door trying to get in, and she won't let him in because she's trying to protect them all. And so Cassian, he starts whispering in her ear, and he's like, Nesta. And this is one of the, like, this is one of the scenes that I saw a clip for on the Instagram, is because he looks in her eyes and it says, and death looked back. So, like, Feyre's not, or not Feyre, Nesta's not, like, home right now. And then, but Cassian says, he's like, but death had been his friend for many years. And so he smiled. And then he kisses her, and he starts, like, kissing her kind of, like, in front of, I don't know if they can't see, because Rhys is like, what did you do? And so I don't know if they, like, couldn't see that he was kissing her, like, what was happening. But because she's trying to scry, and she has to, like, do it and then, like, let the bones go, and she's, like, not able to. And so Cassian basically, like, kisses her until she comes back to herself. And then it says, though, that she looked at him like she'd never seen him before, and her eyes went wide. And now, isn't that what happened to Rhys? Isn't that what Rhys did when the mating bond snapped into place at the end of A Court of Thorns and Roses? So I'm just wondering. We're just back in Nesta's POV now. And so I want to know if the bond snapped into place for her. But I feel like they would both feel it. I don't know. I noticed it because it was the same kind of words that were used when Rhys had it snap into place first, because I guess it still hasn't snapped into place. But anyway, so then we find out that, the bog is where the mask is hidden. And so Azriel, Cassian, and Nesta are going to go try to get it. And that's where I'm at. So there's just so much happening in the book now. It's hard to stop to update, but I want to, because I don't want to have to try to remember everything at the end to talk about. So that's why, like, I'm doing these vlog clips, even though to you guys, I know I'm in the same position for all of them. But we're now, like, I'm almost at really happening. I'm very excited for us to start collecting these. I honestly do love the kind of treasure hunt aspect. It reminds me a lot of Mist and Fury when we were finding the pieces of the book. And I like this hunt that we're doing. Also another piece. So they're supposed to ask Lucien to come back to the Spring Court, because they know that when because Tamlin's just not doing well. And I know we're really pissy about him, but he's been staying in his beast form a lot. And because I'm someone that I want Tamlin to reform, I don't want him to be completely broken. Like, I just don't. I think everything that happened is, there's a lot of stuff, and if we're going to have a book about someone, like, I don't want a full book about Tamlin, but I want to see him get to heal. And if we ever have a book that's from maybe, like, Lucien's POV and someone, that would be really great. So, yeah. But anyway, that's kind of where we are. We're about to go, and I'm excited to get to see Nesta. As we're slowly, like, cracking her powers open more and more, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see her get to use her death power on someone. Obviously not anyone we love, but I'd love to see it happen to, like, a bad person. It'd be cool to see. So I don't know, but that's where we're at. Starting chapter 32. And we'll see what happens next. Okay. I know, my hair's wild as hell. I curled it yesterday, and then all the hair pulling today is just a thing. So I'm not that much further in the book. Let's see. Let me open this up. We just had the first full sex scene. So I'm on page 394. This far into the book. And I have a lot of feelings, and I, like, really want to cry. But. So first, let me explain this. There's this thing called white fanging. My friend Crystal first told me about it when we were reading some historical romances in which the hero leaves the heroine for her own good. That is not what is happening in here, because these are fated mates and we're going to get ourselves figured out and it's fine. But Nesta has made it clear that there's only going to be sex. And I'm not sure yet if Cassian is doing this just as a lesson, or if my gut reaction is that he's trying to follow the rules that she set out so that she will let them keep being together. But they just had this earth-shattering sex scene, and it was beautiful, and then, like, he gets up and leaves. And there's the thing that Nesta says, and, like, I'm not mad at this because I do think that it is, like, a shock for her. But this is what she thinks when he leaves. And I think it's good. I think it's good because, like, she's realizing that she needs more intimacy. Because in general, Nesta isn't someone who, like, wants intimacy. She wants things brutal, hard, fast, and not just in sex, just in everything. And, oh God, number one, this sex scene was so hot, you guys. Like, whoo. But then he gets up and he says, so it was just sex, right? It was a trap somehow. She couldn't discern in what way, but the words were dangerous. She'd meant them, though, or had wanted to at least. So Nesta said, right. His eyes flickered and he grinned again, aiming for the door. Thanks for the ride, Nest. He winked. Ness. Sorry, he doesn't call her Nest. Thanks for the ride, Nest. He winked and was gone. She stared out the door, puzzling over his exit, so swift that his seed still leaked out of her. Hold on. Was it punishment? Had he not enjoyed it? She had the proof of his enjoyment between her legs, but males could find their pleasure and still not deem it good. Was he trying to demonstrate what she'd done to all those males, bedded them and kicked them out? She'd said just sex, but had thought it might at least come with some cuddling, a few minutes to enjoy the feel of his body against hers before pride made her order him to leave. Nesta knelt in the bed and stared at the door, and silence was her only answer. So, it's funny too. I mean, it's not funny, but Nesta has to come to him. Like, she literally is a rabid dog. She's a rabid dog, and she's slowly being gentled. But Cassian is smart, and I know, like, we haven't had his POV yet. Like, we ended this with her POV. And I know that he did not want to leave at all. Like, I just know. So that's why this doesn't, like, hurt me. Like, I'm sure he's literally, like, fighting it and going. Because right before that, he's like, that was amazing. And she's like, you're lying. And he's like, I'm beyond lying. So it's like, you know that he just wants this intimacy with her. And she's not ready for it. But I love that. Like, one of the things that I said to my friends, that I was angry when this happened in a historical where we're not trying to teach the other person a lesson, which, number one, I don't think we should use sex to teach each other lessons that way, because to me it just hurts my heart too much when I see it happen. But I really appreciated that Nesta's feeling that, because let's be honest, like, this woman is never going to soften if it's pushed on her. And because I want Cassian to have that love later, like, he's gonna have to play some of these games that she's playing to get her to realize it. But it's funny, too, because there's a line that, like, his seed was literally still wet. And that's something that I said to one of my friends. I was like, the guy's running away before the cum is even dry. I'm sorry, this is really graphic how I'm explaining this, but being a romance reader and someone who loves it, I get really upset when it's misused. And my point being, I think I found one of the only times where I'm literally okay with this situation, because I need Nesta to click with it. And I also know that Cassian isn't leaving to run away. He's literally leaving because he doesn't want to scare her away by showing his feelings. So I just had to pop in and say that, even though I haven't read that much more. This vlog is going to be so long. All right, back in this position again. Oh boy. All right, so I am on chapter 47, page 486. And it's happened. I was waiting for this point, because things have been seeming like okay-ish with Nesta. We're working on our intimacy. Nesta, we're seeing her power grow. Cassian has taken her to see how swords are forged, because he is going to teach them how to use them. That's the next step. We are working on creating like a Valkyrie crew. We have 3 ladies training all the time. We have Hellion come by with his Pegasus, and we hear that Amarantha murdered a bunch of his Pegasuses, which totally made me tear up. in a 1-paragraph thing about his beautiful horses being murdered because Amarantha just liked to ruin everything good. There's sexy time that we're keeping just sex again, whatever. Then we find out in chapter 42 that those swords that Nesta, she got to practice forging with, she actually imbued them with magic, and she created 3 magical blades. She did a regular sword, a broadsword, and a dagger that she had practiced forging, and she actually imbued some magic into them. And so the inner circle decides, well, Amren and Rhys don't want her to know about it, but everybody else votes that they should tell her, but we don't know how to tell her. And so that is just kind of left out there. And we still don't know, like, why Amren is so mad at her. Like, it hasn't fully been explained yet why that happened. Okay, literally the mailman just came while that was happening, so I have to wait for him to drop it off. But and like, there haven't been magic swords made in so long, and we don't really know where the last of them are at, I think. Or maybe we do, I don't know. But I thought it was really fucking cool. But Amren doesn't want her to know because they're afraid that in a fit of rage, or when she's mad at them, she might use that kind of magic against them, which, as we're about to see, she's not completely wrong. However, Amren does things very, like, spitefully. It's a thing. But then Amren brings up that with these magical swords and the power that he has, Rhys and Feyre would look pretty damn good as a high king and high queen of the land. Because they believe that, like, 4 out of the 7 courts would probably be okay with it because they trust Rhys after what he did in the last war. Tamlin, he's completely, like, batshit crazy, so we don't really care what he thinks. And then Baron is already trying to turn against them, and if they got Eris in place, then maybe it would work. But Rhys is like, there's no way that my wife wants to be high queen and I don't want to be high king. I don't want that to be a thing. And they're like, we need to be unified, and it isn't working. And so that's kind of laid on the table. Don't know what that means. Then we go and confront Eris about all of his soldiers having been turned by the crown, which is one of those magical items. And he, like, is like, so you killed all my men before finding this out? And they're like, well, it was a situation, okay? And then Tamlin actually shows up because they've been meeting in secret in the spring court. That's where we've been meeting. And Tamlin happens by, and Nesta points at him, which the last person she pointed at and cursed with death was the King of Hybern, and he died. And so they believe that she literally has, like, a death point is a thing now. But she tells Tamlin, she's like, if you tell anyone what you saw, I'll rip off your head too. So that's kind of laid down there. Then we have the shit go down, and this is why I, like, stopped to film. In chapter 45, Cassian kind of messes up telling her about the swords, and he admits that everyone kind of voted on it, and they decided they would tell her, but they were taking her time, and so she, like, freaks out about it. And so she pretends that she's taking a bath, and so he leaves her be. And then she ends up taking all of the stairs, which that's been kind of a thing that's been going on, is there's these 10,000 steps, right? And she either has to have someone fly or winnow her away, or else take the steps down to Valaris. And she's been slowly getting closer to taking the stairs. And so this time she's so angry and furious that Amren turned on her, because she knows why Rhys is doing it. Her and Rhys have never gotten along. And so she makes all these steps, and she bursts into Amren's apartment and kicks out Varian, who him and Amren are having sex. And they start arguing, and Amren is like, you refuse to try to understand your power, and you're going to kill someone with it because you willfully don't try to understand it. You're afraid of it. And why would I want you to only learn the parts of your power that can hurt us? Like, you need to learn control. And so Nessa really finally is having her final hissy fit here, as I see it. Like, to me, this is the turning point that we're finally getting to. I've been waiting for this, because a lot of her reasoning with Amren, like, it's not great. Like, she really is just blaming everyone else for how things went, and it's kind of frustrating. Like, I get it. And Amren is like, because Nesta feels very betrayed that Amren was like wanting her to train and master her gift, which I don't understand. And it's one of those things of like the grief and the confusion that it doesn't quite click for me. But what happens in this is that Varian had went and got Feyre, who's painting at her studio. So Feyre comes in and Nesta was like, you know, there's secrets they don't want to tell you either. And I was like, fuck, Nesta, don't do this. And so Nesta tells Feyre, you know, there's secrets they're keeping from you. Have they told you that that baby's going to kill you? And like, they don't want you to know because they're afraid you can handle it. And Amren is like, shut your fucking mouth. And she doesn't. She's like, they're afraid the baby is going to kill you. Why do you think Rhys has been freaking out? She's like, well, he's like, no, because they know and like, you're going to die. And Nesta immediately is like, this was not the way to handle this. And we're all like, bitch, why'd you do it? So she runs. Cassian happens to be like on his way to the river house and he hears what's happening. And holy fuck, this is what happens. I'll read it. Cassian froze at the voice that he'd so rarely heard and never once directed at himself. What happened? Rhys's face was wholly calm, but death, black, raging death, lay in his eyes. Not a star or a shimmer of violet remained. Rhys said in a voice that was like hell embodied, Nesta saw fit to inform Feyre of the risk to her and the babe. Cassian's heart thundered, even as it splintered. Rhys held his stare, and it was all Cassian could do to weather it, as his brother, his High Lord, said. Get Nesta out of this city right now. Rhys's power rumbled in the room like a rising storm. Before I fucking kill her. Guys, Rhys is not fucking around, okay? So yeah, so she's getting banished. This is like what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for this. I knew somehow her power was going to get her in trouble. And in this case, it's her unwillingness to master it. Like, she's willing to do the physical parts. Like, she's ready to learn that. But she's not willing to master herself completely because of whatever reasons. And so now we've reached this point where obviously Cassian is going to go with her. But I can see why this would be so difficult. Like, yeah, this is crazy. And also, like, we've been seeing more and more studying and stuff, and nobody, like, all the other kinds of winged fae, because there are the seraphim and the peregrines, they all have very, like, bendable wings, and so the wings kind of wrap themselves around the baby, and they're able to be born, whether the person is high fae or of that same breed of person, of humanoid. But the Illyrians are the only ones that have wings that are unbendable. So this is also a puzzle that we need to solve as well. So, okay, that's the update for now. Things are getting serious. So this is going to be probably the last update while I'm like reading like this. Because I'm at 82% and I don't want to keep stopping to update. So, we've got through a lot of stuff. We had a whole thing, like, Nesta finally broke, like we said, was fixed, you know, starting to work through some stuff. Then we offered Eris a deal and she danced with him and Eris really wanted to marry her and we had winter solstice and Cassian gives her a gift and she said she doesn't deserve it and she's like, I'm going to marry Eris because I deserve someone like Eris. I don't deserve you. You're too good for me. And then when they do it this time, it's really clear that it's different. It's really clear, I think, that like the mating bond is into place now. I think. That's what it seemed like to me. And so, yeah, we'll see where this is going. Tears are happening. It's a thing. And then tomorrow, because I also only have, I have an hour and a half until my live read along for Pharaoh Feb. And I want to try to finish this before that, which I should be able to. I have like 140 pages and I have an hour and a half, so I should be able to do that. And then tomorrow, when I'm fresh and clean and all that, I'll wrap up my final thoughts for this, but this experience of reading this book has just been amazing. It's so good. It's so good. All right, guys. So had to go back this morning. I was starting to put the footage together and see like where I had ended, because it all just kind of like moves together, and there's a lot still to talk about, so I'm kind of just gonna go over some points and stop with the things that were like most impactful to me, just because I'm happy to have a long video, but I don't want it to be so overwhelming that it's like too much. So we'll start with like the last thing I talked about was when Nesta, you know, finally like breaks to Cassian and tells him like why she can't accept him, and he thinks it's because he's like a bastard and that she thinks she's too good for him, because he's had those feelings forever. That's already a thing. And then she explains that like, I'm not good enough for anyone, so I should just be used for this political marriage because I don't deserve you. And I love when we have this. I love that they both are literally weeping through this sex scene, and it shows what the difference between them making love is. And I will say, like, we weren't joking. There's so much sex in this book, on page and implied. These two are just fucking like rabbits all over the house. And you know, in the end, Reese gives them this house, and I'm like, yeah, because like you guys fucked in it way more than he ever could. And I love that this is just, I'm hopping all around, that the house, that Amren acknowledges that like, you made the house, like you poured some of yourself into it, and you made it. Like, it already was sentient in a certain way, but you made it. With your trashy romance novels and things, you created this house, you know, and I really like that. But anyway, so we have that. Then we have more of the Valkyrie stuff going on. And there's her, like, being afraid to have a mate, afraid that he wouldn't choose her. Well, he's feeling the same way. I mean, that's just natural miscommunication, because Nesta, she's not one to talk about her feelings and her ooey gooey thoughts, so it's not a surprise that she would be like that, you know. It's none of it's a surprise. And then we really start to get to everything. We push at the end of part 3, the Valkyrie women, who have officially, like, they are Valkyrie now. They completed their training. They're able to slice the ribbon. She's working through her forgiveness. She's working through her issues with him. We haven't seen Cassian much because stuff is going down with Braylon. And so after they have their emotional stuff, they're like not around each other that much. And it's really like, you know, it's happening. And then they get stolen and forced into the rite. So the blood rite is something like we've seen it mentioned in previous books when we've heard people's stories, and we see it mentioned more in this one now, where it's something that you are forced into and then you can win it or survive it, but it's also a chance to basically call out the weak. And these women get put into it. Emery, Gwen, and Nesta get forced into this rite. And a lot of what like happened, you know, to Cassian and Reese we see happen now, except there's been a difference. Weapons have been dropped in as well. And it becomes clear to us through this that someone has like set this up. But as soon as she is taken, Cassian, he discovers that she's gone and wants to run it. But the thing is, if you disturb the rite, the person that you save will be murdered, as well as the person who rescued you will have a execution order on their head, because you cannot interrupt the rite. Once you are put into it, you can't change it. And apparently it's something not even the High Lord can change. So now, also, Iris has been kidnapped by Braylon. All this shit is happening at one thing. And we find out, and this is the most, like, I thought of this back when it was when it was first shared, but I didn't think about it in context to Feyre and Reese's child until it was reminded. But the seeds were all there for this. We were reminded because Cassian asked Reese to go in and get Eris. He's like, you need to go get him because I need to like be watching. And he's like, number one, you can't save Nesta now. Either Nesta is going to make it out of this blood rite or she's not. There's nothing we can do. And also, I need you and Azriel to go get Eris because I can't do it. And we're like, why can't you do it? Well, Feyre and Reese, they have a bargain that they will leave this world together. So did that like shred anyone else's insides when they realized that? I mean, it would be shredding if Feyre and this babe were to die, which again, we know that's not going to happen, but somehow Sarah still finds a way to make you believe that we could lose our loved ones because the stakes are so high for this and we love them so much that when it's happening, you're not thinking about like, this is a romance, we're going to be okay. We're like, how much damage is going to be done? What's going to happen? So if Rhys were to go and try to rescue Eris and be under the spell of the crown, I haven't talked too much about these things, but again, this is spoiler reviews, so you probably know what those things are at this point. Then Feyre and the baby would be at risk. But also, if Feyre is to die giving birth to this child, Rhys will die as well. So the birth of this baby has just become way more stressful than we ever thought it would be. Like, just completely so much more stressful. So let's get into kind of this final stuff, because here's the thing. I even in my notes, there's a whole fight through this, right? It turns out that it was all set up by Braylon. She has been controlling Illyrians who, you know, haven't been that resistant to it, to be honest. They were willing to kind of help. Eris was kidnapped to draw Cassian out so that Braylon could use Cassian against Nesta. So this is all about Nesta because Braylon knew who her real enemy was. And so she uses this right to completely exhaust Nesta, to have her be without her magic, and to put her... and to have Cassian be there to use him against her. So either she hands over the other items, which she's not supposed to be able to hand over because we had them put in a room where she set up the wards but doesn't know how to undo them. Rhys is the only one who knows how to undo them. And he's not the one who can do it. So supposedly we need both of them together to do it. But then Braylon is using Cassian to try to force her into this. And so Cassian is able to have enough sentience that he kind of like pretends to stab himself because it looks like Braylon is going to make him kill himself. And he's able to like fake it, but it's enough that Nesta believes he stabbed himself. And so she fucking snaps and she just sends out her power. Her power just goes out and she unmakes Braylon down to a molecular level. Because she thought this woman. And then Cassian pops up and he's like, wow, that worked. Which was just fucking amazing. So then we make it back to the night court and Feyre has started bleeding. The babe is coming early and he's stuck in the wrong place and she is being like shredded by this. And I'll tell you, again, Sarah works us into the place that we don't know what to do. So the healer doesn't know what to do. They're like, we could try to cut the baby out and then we would have the baby, but we wouldn't have Feyre. And Nesta is just, oh my gosh. It's crazy. I can't even fully explain it. But she basically like calls all of the items to her. So she has the mask, the crown, and the harp. And now we've seen the harp used. We've seen all of the items. Like we know what the crown does and we've seen the harps and everything. And so what she discovers about the harp, and the harp is supposed to be able to open any door. And the final door to be opened is time. And so the 26th string is time. And so Nesta plucks it and she stops time. She stops Feyre the moment her heart is stopping beating. She freezes Rhys so he can't stop her. And she hears the cauldron talking to her. And the cauldron, let me see. We'll just pull this up because it was time. The 26th string on the harp was time, and Nesta stopped it as Feyre took her last breath. So then we get a repeat of this poem that like I read way back in the beginning, and it's what she felt when she went into the cauldron the first time. And it says, in the beginning and in the end, there was darkness and nothing more. And so she hears the voice of it talking to her, and it's telling her like how powerful she is and what she'll be able to do if she was this all-powerful being. And she's like, and what would it mean? Like, I would feel nothing. And they're like, isn't that what you wanted, to feel nothing? And Nesta says, I thought that's what I wanted, but no longer. I want to feel everything. I want to embrace it with my whole heart. even the things that hurt and hunt you. We need those things in order to appreciate the good. Some days might be difficult, more difficult than others, but I want to experience all of it, live through all of it with them. So it says, so live, Nesta Archeron. And so she goes up to Feyre and she's like, you loved me when no one else would. You never stopped. Even when I didn't deserve it, you loved me and you fought for me. And I love you, Feyre. I love you, Nesta whispered. I love you. So she's on her knees and she knows that we need to make a decision because everything's frozen, and if she does it wrong, these 3 people that she loves will die. Because she does see Rhys as her brother. She knows that he wants what's best for her in reference to what, like, Feyre wants, but he has tried to do right by her all this time. And so she asked the cauldron to show her how to save them all. Sorry, I'm going to be a freaking snot bucket because I'm so emotional. She tells the cauldron she'll give back the power that she stole from it if it will let her do this. And so there's lots of emotional stuff here. It's all happening. But she's able to do it. She's able to fix Feyre, to fix the baby. And then she actually does some other things which we'll mention here. She fixes Feyre's inside, so she permanently will have Illyrian downstairs bits, because that's important. And she fixes herself so that in the future, her and Cassian could have a family. She's not saying we're going to have a family today, but she tells Cassian, like, you would be a really great father, and I want us to be able to do that where you wouldn't lose me to do that. And I thought that was great. This little baby, his name is Nyx, which is that not... Okay, between the Valkyrie and the baby being named Nyx. That's pretty cool, right? It's also cool because I just love the, like, the symbolism and the things like that. So... then we have Cassian and Nesta. They official their mating bond. Like, she literally gives him, like, crackers and is like, we can have a big, beautiful party, but let's just do this right now. And as I knew that it would, like, I knew that it would end this way. Feyre and Elaine and Nesta, they bring Nyx to the gravestone of their dad so that they can show Nyx their grandpa. And I really, really love this journey with Nesta and her dad, because I knew, so here's the thing, speaking of myself, I know a lot of people don't understand the anger of Nesta, or they say that it's too much. Like, that's totally fine. You can say the anger is too much. But I knew, and for better or worse, that it all came back to daddy issues. Okay, like, I knew that it did. And that's not saying that lightly, because, guys, we're coming from someone who has them. I've shared many, many, many times, and I'm not getting too personal, but I'm just telling you why this book means so much to me. Because I had a dad, have a wonderful dad, but when I was younger, our relationship was not good. And the anger that Nesta feels sometimes, where she's just daring that person to do something about it. And she sees them as so weak because they don't know how to do it the right way. I feel that. I feel that so much, guys. And so, granted, hers is like 10,000 times more than I felt. But I also had where, like, I felt my dad was useless. And that he was a waste of space, and he was just causing me and my mom unnecessary heartbreak. Well, my mom worked her ass off, and my dad would just drink the money away and just be this, you know? But sometimes it's things I can't control. And that doesn't mean that my dad doesn't love me. And, you know, I'm lucky enough that I didn't lose my dad before we were able to have this relationship, you know? My dad didn't die because of his vices or make so bad decisions that were ruined forever. But I love that Nesta can acknowledge, like, you were doing the best you could and you love me. And it's a gift that the last thing he said to her was that he loved her. And it's okay that, you know, that's the moment that, like, breaks her. Why she feels like she's not good enough for Cassian or for love is because she spurned her father's love to his face when he was dying. But it's to be like, that's okay, you know, like, he knows that you loved him and he loved you. And by being able to have that peace, which that's what, I love this. Her sword and the last part of this book are called ataraxia, which means inner peace. And Nesta finds her inner peace. And for all the help that all her friends give, that still is a journey she has to get to on her own. Like, she still had to get there on her own and realize it, because otherwise it's not real inner peace. If someone just tells you, like, this is what the problem is, have peace. And it takes all those little breaks, right? It takes all those things mounting up, like when she finally decided to train, when she goes too far and says something horrible to Feyre, and then she breaks, she's just like dead. She's ready to be done. And Cassian's like, you can take your time with this, but you can't give up. Giving up is the failing. You just got to keep getting up. And then she sees what actually losing her family would be, you know, and not being able to save Feyre, who, it's true, like, I think some of us are like, Feyre, why do you keep giving this woman a chance? Like, even back in A Court of Thorns and Roses, we're like, your sister sucks. Like, she sucks. And to see Nesta get to this place, like, this book was such a beautiful redemption. It was such a beautiful path to see her go. And like, oh, there's just moments in this book I'm gonna remember forever. It's so good. Okay, and then wrap up in theories, because we can in the comments talk about how great other individual scenes are. I will absolutely do that with you. My brain is too messed up for that, but there are some threads open. I think that Nesta's story, like, her arc is complete for this, but there is still room for the next stories. Like, who do you think is going to be next? Because I have no idea, but there is still story left on the table, because Baron is still working behind the scenes against them. Koshii, the Deathless, has been, like, released, or is, like, he's still in his lake trapped, but he's still trying to get out. We're still having problems with Valhalla and all of that stuff. Just because Braylon is gone doesn't mean that it's fixed. So we are still set up for there to be another story. Like, do we think it's going to be Elaine's turn and her maneuvering everything? That's the thing, we really didn't see much maneuverings of other people. This was focused on Nesta and Cassian and the journey that they were going on together. And so we only saw little pieces of others, you know? And so I don't know if we're having Azriel and Elaine next, or if it's going to be about Lucian and what's happening with Tamlin in the Spring Court. Like, I'd love to know your theories. I don't think that she's said anywhere. I would need to go back and watch some of her lives to see if she's said, like, who it's going to be next. But I know that there's more planned. Like, this isn't the end of the series for her. I can't remember if she said there would be 2 or 3 more books, but I know she said there'd be more, and, like, I'm really interested in it. I want to see baby Nyx some more. I mean, I just love already seeing them, like, when Azriel's holding baby Nyx. I'm like, I'm dead. I'm done. So, okay. This video is already so long. I want to get it edited and get it out to you guys as soon as possible. So, I'm going to do that. But this was such a journey. I hope you guys loved it too. I honestly can't think of the things I don't like. I know part of it is that it takes so long for her to get rolling. But it wouldn't have been believable to me for Nesta, because she's not a cozy, sweet person who warm gestures are going to get to her. Like, it needed to be some smackdown before this would happen. But I love this. It's a 6-star read, in case you didn't know. And I can't wait to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it all the way through to the end, give me a bat emoji for the bat wings. That would be adorable. Is there a bat emoji? I don't know. Or give me a heart. It's fine. Thank you so much for watching this. I love you all so much. Have a great day. Bye.